Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the past 2.5 hours. You might be shocked to learn after the past 2.5 hours that there's more to the Appian product than just PowerPoint. So I thought I'd actually come up here and show some stuff. We talked about no-code integration, zero-code integrations. Let's actually build that. Talked about some DevOps features. Let's build that as well and see how we actually apply these latest capabilities of Appian into your applications. But first, a little more PowerPoint. Appian is kind of in a unique position in the marketplace. We're actually the only vendor in the world to have the same platform rated as a leader in both low-code application development as well as process automation, both by Forrester and Gartner in their intelligent BPM suites, deep digital process automation by Forrester, and low-code application platforms. But with that, these are the two probably most hyped up, I would say, enterprise adoption patterns. As we see, Gartner says that 65% of all enterprise applications will be built on low code by the year 2024, a pretty significant trend. So I thought I need to rename my presentation to something more appropriate, hyper-automation at hyper speed. More because it has the word hype in it twice to emphasize the point, but also hyper-automation is really a term that Gartner is starting to coin right now, is the concept of what we call also intelligent automation. Bring together a larger perspective of automation technologies, of API management, events management, RPA, robotic process automation, business process management, and artificial intelligence. And how could I hype up a presentation even more by having the word hype in the title twice? Always, you got to mention the word AI. And everyone knows what AI is, of course, but maybe not many people know how to apply it. And what I want to talk about is kind of removing a little bit of that hype, removing a little bit like that marketing fluff, and showing actually how we apply artificial intelligence to achieve real business results inside your organization. So the first thing is to kind of understand your evolution and where you are in your AI journey. AI, if you go back to the 1960s definition of AI, or 1950s even, prescriptive rules are actually under the realm of AI, a decision table, prescriptive logic. Of course, that's not what we consider today. It's more data-driven machine learning and neural network design. But if you're adopting a BPM or RPA product, and if you're at this conference, most likely you've already accomplished that, you're already at what I would say level 0 AI. You're starting to automate interactions with humans inside the system. But as you want to evolve your AI practice, you need to think about, do I want to try to pass the Alan Turing test right away? Do I want to emulate a human being? Or do I just want to interject kind of intelligent rules throughout your system? And that's where we recommend is taking an evolutionary journey of artificial intelligence. Don't go hire those highly expensive data scientists and computer scientists to try to pass the Turing test. Go and look at the pre-trained cognitive services that you can just buy off the shelf and start to implement inside your solutions to achieve real AI results inside your process automations. As you mature, then, you want to look at intelligent process improvement. This is the idea where we're not just going to adopt packaged cognitive services, but we're going to start to train those services in the context of your business. This might be like a language understanding and intent service. Language understanding would be a packaged cognitive service that can understand the context, the sentiment of what someone's talking about. But intent service, I need to understand the context into my specific organization. I might have a drastically different intent definition if I say the word investigation in the context of the IRS versus in the context of NOAA. Those are maybe two entirely different organizations in that context of what investigation means. So applying the understanding to language understanding with the intent is kind of starting to train it into your business context. And then the last goal is where you have those expensive data scientists, where I have large troves of data, and I'm going to mine that for specific insights and predictions that are going to drive unique capabilities inside your process automations. But let's go back to that word AI. And I always like to say that it's not the right word to think of. Don't say I have an AI project, because I don't think that really means anything to anyone as far as how is that actually going to be applied to solve problems inside my organization. It's often just a buzzword. So I would say flipping those buzzwords. Don't call it AI, call it IA. And IA, of course, is that term we've already heard, is intelligent automation. Intelligent automation really is a more practical way of describing artificial intelligence. It's saying that I'm going to look at processes and workflows inside my organization and try to find opportunities to apply artificial intelligence for intelligent automation inside the organization. That's what intelligent automation is. And when you think about intelligent automation as a product set, you need to look at key technologies supporting that, such as business process management, workflow automation software, which is going to manage the holistic process, robotic process automation to start emulating and repeat those human tasks and create more efficiencies, integration, which is a key component. Data is so important in process orchestration and AI that you want to have really kind of easy access to all the data inside your organization through integration. And of course, artificial intelligence. So let's take an example. And take an example where we might apply the Appian AI solution. Now, Appian AI is something that is out of the box, the Appian product. It's a relationship with Appian and Google, as described by Matt before, how we bundle pre-trained cognitive services with the Appian product. These include things like Google Vision with optical character recognition and intelligent character recognition to recognize documents and classify documents. Natural language processing as well to understand the sentiment and what people are saying in a natural human communication. And translation to translate over 100 different languages to any other language as well, such as if I have inbound communications from Spanish or French, I can translate that to English as well. So let's take a look at an example process flow that you might build in Appian. This is pretty common for us, where I receive an inbound email communication or any other communication event. That event trigger is going to trigger an Appian process model. As I have that process model, it's going to determine, well, did this guy send me an attachment or not? Did he attach a document? Now, normally in an Appian process, I might have a level 1 triage support desk. They need to take in these inbound communications, understand what the customer is talking about, and then also route it to the appropriate person for resolution, a common situation where I need to handle mass communication. Now, inside of here, of course, that person is going to have to manually transcribe the documents, understand, did they send me the right content? I was expecting maybe a proof of citizenship or a billing record. I need to receive that information in. I also need to transcribe that information, as well as if they communicate to me in Spanish, I need to maybe hire or find a Spanish-speaking agent to also handle that communication. Also, I need to classify the email. What was the intent of this email? Did they want to find out something about their services? Did they want to request maybe a FOIA request? What was going on specifically? And then they need to route that appropriately. So if we look at how we can apply Appian AI in these Google AI services, we can take a look at, say, well, instead of having someone manually look at those documents, I could automatically route those documents to a Google Vision service and do document classification. Document classification will automatically look at any document, identify whether it's a passport, a driver's license, a Dominion power bill, a mortgage bill, whatever it is, you can identify the document and automatically classify it for appropriate routing. We can also transcribe that entire document, convert that from an unreadable document into readable text by a machine, so you can also do deep mining of the text inside of there and route it appropriately. In addition, I might not have a large set of multilingual agents on hand. Increasingly, we need to have that to communicate in the many languages spoken here in the United States now. So we can automatically transcribe these emails so English-speaking or Spanish-speaking agents can actually handle language communication in other language as well. So they can take in the inbound communication, use a Google Translate service, and appropriately understand the context that the communication. Next, I want to actually read the email, read the communication. I want to also classify this based on both the keywords inside the environment, so inside the communication. So that keyword might be what we call entity analysis. I want to look for those keywords like account, service, and find out what that means in context to my business as well as classify the sentiment. Is this person sending a very angry email, or are they happy with their service, and route that appropriately based on maybe an angry person queue or the specific queue needed for those classifications. As you go through this, then I can see that that entire first level triage can be eliminated with artificial intelligence inside the environment. This is a great way to look at, again, stepping your toe into AI, thinking about looking at that process holistically and as an intelligent automation, identify opportunities to inject artificial intelligence to speed up the communication, speed up your process efficiency. Now let's also talk about integration. This is talked about before already around integration, but here we have obviously this slide that's communicated before around the many integrations now available inside the Appian environment. What I want to get to is this, a demo. So this is the riskiest part of my environment because I just got off a flight from San Francisco late last night. My son was a little sick, woke me up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and now I'm going to do a complex demonstration of integrating to Salesforce live in front of you. And hopefully this can be done with no hitches. So right here I have an example email triage center application. In fact, I'd like to remind everyone that if you have a .gov email address, or if you're one of Appian's strategic partners, you can have access to the exact same environment that I'm demoing from at any time. Go to Appian.com, register for a free trial. The Appian product is free for 2 weeks, free to try out and do any of these routines. And of course, there's detailed tutorials of exactly how to do this and apply artificial intelligence in your routines. Now here I have an email triage center application that comes with the Appian free trial, and I want to go ahead and build new connected systems. So as I go into, say, build a new connected system inside of here, you can see this large library of logos that are these pre-built connections. Now, of course, you have systems like Blue Prism, UiPath, DocuSign, Salesforce, Microsoft Azure, Google Services, SharePoint. A variety of those are really easy no-code integrations. For this one, we're going to choose Salesforce. So I need to connect to information inside my Salesforce environment. With each one of these integrations, there's often multiple ways to authenticate depending on your specific preference by user or web server OAuth credentials. And it's always using modern authentication techniques as well. Now, of course, I did not memorize the OAuth credentials to type into this box. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this and go ahead to my pre-built Salesforce connection. So here I have an integration to Salesforce.com. I just want to go ahead and test this connection. This is going to establish a communication between Appian and the Salesforce platform. So now I've tested it. There's a successful connection. These two systems are inherently linked now through integration. I can now choose to use this in a new integration and say, well, what's the operation? When we talk about zero code, we mean that I should not need a computer science degree to integrate Salesforce with my environment. I should not need to know what a RESTful API is. I should not need to know what JSON is and these complex terms that developers know. I should also not ever have to reference the Salesforce API documentation. That's a large library. They have hundreds and hundreds of APIs and methods. We want to make that really easy to understand to a common user. So what do I want to do with Salesforce? I can do all the what we call CRUDs, create, read, update, delete, and search. So I can create Salesforce objects, search them, describe them. I'm going to go ahead and search for something, and I'm going to say find accounts in Salesforce. And let's go ahead and save that in a corporate global directory. So I'm creating a new integration point now between Appian and the Salesforce environment. And this is going to allow me to then basically, with no code, perform this integration. So I can see all these capabilities as far as the methods and operations. I can change right here. If I am a Salesforce expert, of course, I can provide my what's called SOQL, which is the proprietary Salesforce query language. If I don't want to do that, I have access to all the objects in all of Salesforce. So if you've created custom objects in Salesforce, extended the entire platform, we have access to all that environment through our no-code integration. So here I want to look at those accounts, and in the accounts, I want to look at the specific fields. Again, we have access to all the out-of-the-box and custom fields that you might have extended on the Salesforce platform. Let's go ahead and just get all my accounts. Hit test request. And there it is, success. I have a new integration that's automatically fetching all those accounts in Salesforce. Now that looks like, okay, I have a data dump of information. How do I easily massage this now into an interface? I want to build a UI that now shows me all those accounts. So let's see how easy that is to build. So I'm going to go ahead and create an interface. Say sales dashboard for my Salesforce system. Hit create. As I go to my sales dashboard here, I can see I have a pre-built one of my templates that comes with the Appian product that's going to allow me to track key statistics. And of course, I want to augment this with maybe my account listing in Salesforce. So I'm going to go ahead into my drag and drop read-only grid here. Snap that right inside there. And wouldn't it be great if I have that read-only grid? It's going to be populated from that Salesforce environment. So you can see this grid can query back in data sources. It can choose it from a local variable that's been populated. I can find a rule, or maybe here I'm going to choose that expression. And the expression is going to be that rule I just defined called find accounts in Salesforce. And I know it's going to return a .result.records, which is going to be the listing of all those account records. Now, Appian is going to automatically analyze the data sets that were returned from Salesforce, figure out how to massage that into a specific grid pattern, and now show me all those accounts right inside Salesforce. Now, I don't need to also have all these columns, so if I just want to delete columns, I simply go right here and simply delete those columns I don't necessarily want shown inside that grid control. So again, an easy way to take information from any data source through a zero-code integration, show it in these UIs in the environment. Now let's go back to our presentation. talk a little bit more also about robotic workforce management. So we heard Mike talk a little bit about that, but robotic workforce manager was introduced earlier this year with a specific use case in mind. That as people are dipping their toe into RPA, robotic process automation, they're defying lots of rule-based, prescriptive, maybe using it at a high volume, but they're in low expectations. But also there's low system changes. They're typically very fragile. As you start to increase your robotic process automation usage across your enterprise, you often need to evolve that to a new pattern. One that more deeply integrates humans inside the environment, allows more freer access to initiate robotic process automations from your business users, and scales automation programs to a larger degree than you might have already. This is specifically what robotic workforce manager is designed to do. So, once you know, exit. I would think that the demo of Appian would be the problem and not the PowerPoint, but here we are. So anyways, Appian, we've invested in integrations to all the major RPA platforms, including UiPath, Blue Prism, and Automation Anywhere, all have similar zero-code integrations that you just saw me demonstrate with Salesforce as well. Easily introspect all the operations you can perform, as well as easily navigate all the different methods without having to learn their API documentation. This is available as a connected system that can be loaded on any Appian environment just like this. And not only that is, with many of these, like UiPath and Blue Prism, we also have integration from those platforms back into Appian. So for example, as I'm conducting robotic process automation, at some point I might want to trigger an Appian process for a human exception flow. Well, there's also a zero-code integration inside UiPath that allows me to insert Appian tasks right inside a UiPath robotic process automation flow as well. So specifically what we ship with in Robotic Workforce Manager is three main things. Deployment management, which is going to look at the life cycle of your environment, life cycle of your RPA tools, controls and control those RPA bots, and a global case manager to handle exceptions. What the deployment manager is going to do is going to capture those ideas for robotic process automations right at the very inception. It's going to ask your business users to propose ideas and the efficiency saved by building new robotic process automations inside your organization. It's also going to establish an out-of-the-box center of excellence around your RPA practice with enterprise-wide governance and controls. And not only that, it's going to expand the automation program to build a large, prioritized backlog of potential RPA actions in the future. As we define each one of those robotic process automation scripts inside the initial capture, we're also going to define which applications it's potentially going to touch. So I can also do change management inside the RPA environment. If I know I'm going to, say, upgrade Microsoft Excel to a newer version, and the upgrade of Microsoft Excel I know is going to probably break a lot of my RPA bots, I can introspect all the different robotic process automations and understand which ones touch which applications, which might need to be updated in the future. The Control Center is going to empower business owners with self-service over the robots. That vision of say, a robot for every business user can be fulfilled through Robotic Workforce Manager with Appian. It's going to deliver proactive monitoring and alerting for robots, as well as reporting and analytics for tracking the optimization of those RPA bots as well. So it allows your business users to directly interface with those RPA bots. It's going to allow them to initiate new bots, control those bots, and measure their productivity across the entire organization. Then finally, if those bots do trigger exceptions, we have the RPA case manager inside the system as well. This is going to provide a seamless collaboration between humans and bots. As an exception occurs, kicks into the leading Appian human workflow capabilities to resolve those bots and then trigger back into the RPA tool to continue those holistic process flows as well. So most significantly, though, with the RPA Robotic Workforce Manager tool with Appian, we provide a heterogeneous control of the environments. With our newest release coming in 19.4, which released just last week, we actually allowed a single Robotic Workforce Manager console to have a mixed environment of both UiPath or Blue Prism bots with multiple instances of those environments as well inside a single control dashboard, which is oftentimes what we see as different departments adopt RPA tools individually. You might have a heterogeneous environment of different tools. You can now have that one center of excellence tool overriding all of them. And finally, let's talk a little bit about low code and DevOps. So for this, of course, I'm going to jump into a demo to show this, but I'd like to also talk about the evolution that we've been on throughout 2019. In 19.1, we introduced a new concept, this is about in March of this year, called connected infrastructure. Connected infrastructure created an inherent awareness of your dev, test, and production environments between each other inside the Appian platform. As we built on that, we started focusing on cross-environment metric sharing so that when I'm in development, I can actually look at my production system and see the actual performance of my applications right from my dev server. It gives amazing insight to developers to know exactly what's being used in production and how that application is being received. Also, cross-environment comparison. As they have multiple developers working on a single application across different dev servers, they can now compare easily across different environments and get a visual diff of the two systems, knowing exactly which developer is changing what to do intelligent merges later on. And of course, finally, with Appian 19.4, one-click deployment. So easily push the entire application set from one system to another by a one-click action. More importantly as well, a key component of the Appian architecture has been our health check environment. Health check is an artificially intelligent and powerful tool that basically scans all your logs and design practices and gives you active feedback on how you're actually building applications in the Appian platform. That feedback can give you tips on how to scale or change process patterns to improve the overall application design. Health check's been with the Appian product for a long time, but it's entirely been a separate tool up until 19.4. Now with our 19.4 release that was shipped just last week, it's now embedded inside the Appian product. Administrators can simply turn on health checks, scheduled to automatically run on a scheduled basis to get the active feedback of their environments while they're in development and running in production. So let's go ahead and see some of this in my demo system. Again, I have my email triage application here. I'm going to compare this and look at kind of how this application is being performing on different environments. Now, you can see by this header, the banner, I'm on my dev server. If I go to my monitoring, this is that connection that we have built in, that Appian is automatically aware of all the different servers inside the system. If I click over to my process model metrics, I can see it's giving me a listing of all the memory performance of all my processes. Now, knowing exactly what levers to tune or why it's good or if something is good or bad or hard to understand, so we've pre-built an algorithm behind the scenes which sanitize that up to simply smiley faces. If we feel that this application is being designed well and performing as expected, you'll simply see that green smiley face probably doesn't need to be addressed. If you see runaway processes taking up lots of memory or lots of time, you're going to see that red. There's lots of things that could cause that. That algorithm sanitizes that to an intuitive experience. Now, if I want to compare this, I'm currently on my dev server, but I'd like to see this on my test server. So I can go ahead to my cross-environment comparison and see where there's my dev test prod right here. Simply select test, and now I can look at the same application, how it's performing on my test environment instead. So while I'm in development, I can see, oh, actually my memory utilization on test is a lot lower than my dev server, so something's going on as far as the data that's being input is a little less inside those systems. Now, as I want to continue on, let's say I need to modify this application. I'm going to go into this intelligent triage process model. This intelligent triage process model is an example of us taking inbound communication, applying two AI services, sentiment analysis and case type prediction. But I want to go ahead and add an integration. So I want to come in here and say, at the end of this process, I want to go in and say, call that Salesforce. And I want to create an opportunity in Salesforce automatically. So it's going to register a record in Salesforce just like that. I'm going to skip all the details, but now you see that Salesforce logo. At the end of this process step, I'm going to automatically call Salesforce and build that data set. I'll go ahead and publish this on my dev server. And now I'd like to push this to my test server. So if I want to go ahead and change an application, I can go right here to compare and deploy. And again, it's going to give me a prompt to say, well, which server do you want to, which application do you want to deploy to, or which environment do you want to deploy to? So I'm going to select my Appian test environment. As I select Appian test, I then want to figure out, do I want to send the entire application, overwrite the entire app, or do I want to create a patch? Let's just go ahead and create a patch. It's automatically identifying the last few objects that changed here. So these are the things that have modified and are the difference between my development and test server. So I say, well, this looks great. I want to add that intelligent triage. And I can see also that these objects are new, but this one has changed. Let's go ahead and click on that change and do a visual diff now. This is two entirely different servers, one in dev, one in test. It's going to do a visual diff comparing those two and show me exactly the difference between these two environments. So I can see now that there's extra node added here. As well down below, I can see exactly this call integration node and exactly what's been configured inside of that. So I can see exactly the change as multiple developers work in the system, what's being implemented inside of this patch. So if I hit next, I can also, of course, include database scripts. So if I need to synchronize a deployment of a backend data source, maybe create a view or update a SQL script, I can also include those as part of the overall application package. Hit next and create that patch as well. Now the inspection process is automatically identify all the elements that might be required to successfully run this. So Appian has real-time impact awareness. Every single design object knows what its dependencies are on other design objects, such as that process just created calls an integration rule that you just saw here, and the integration rule is not part of my patch. So now it's detected that. I can have the opportunity now to add that as part of the patch, hit next, and now I can deploy this in one click. Just like that, deploy my implementation, and it's off to the Appian test server. If I want to check it out on Appian Test, I can just follow the link right here, log into my test server. You can see on that banner on my test now, see that design change, go to Appian Designer, email triage, and there you can see my addition of that new Salesforce create opportunity process model. So 1 second while the process loads here. There we go. Oops, it hasn't deployed yet, so it'll get there in a second. I think my demo time is going faster than the deployment lifecycle here. Anyways, wouldn't be a demo without something like that. So finally, to summarize, if you'd like to measure your own readiness for intelligent automation, looking at your experience with business process management, RPA tools, artificial intelligence, as well as integration services, looking at your architectural, we've actually collaborated with a gentleman by the name of Neil Ward-Dutton. He's a leading analyst at IDC now to build this interactive survey. It's free and available on Appian.com. Appian.com/IA readiness. It's a simple survey that looks at the different types of components that you typically want to be ready for to start to take on intelligent automation practices inside your organization. And in conclusion, of course, if you want to try Appian 19.4, I encourage you, every single person with a .gov email address or one of our strategic partners can see this entire demo system as well. 19.4 is available, and of course, it's freely available for 2 weeks to anyone in the room here. So thank you very much, and I'm going to pass it back to Jason to wrap up.